I remembered a excuse me, New You session that I had done, and I'll give you a little background information first. I was very close to my grandfather. Now, he passed away when I was about 4 years old, but I remember him vividly. I remember our little encounters. I remember playing cards with him. You know, I remember a lot with him. And I was thinking the other day, well, gee whiz, where is he? You know, on the real side. Can I find him? Can I see him? See what he's up to, see what he's doing. So I did the New You session, and I see my grandfather. Now, he is standing in front of the old house I grew up on Parkway Avenue in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And he's standing in a three-piece suit like he always wore, and he had his hand in his pocket. But the whole scene was covered in a gray haze, kind of like Margie was in part of my New You session, seeing her after she passed over. And I thought, boy, what the heck is this? Part of my experience with my grandfather was when he was living was of course we always had to go to church, and we kind of sat in the front rows, no further back than the third. And I remember he and my mother singing in church, and every time they sang, their voice would crack. I mean crack. They couldn't hit a note if their life depended on it. And then they'd start laughing, you know. Okay, so that's a little bit of background there. So I thought in the New You session, I thought I need to teach my grandfather the New You. And I talked to him, and he didn't recognize me at first. And I said, I'm your granddaughter. You know, I'm all grown up now, but I'm your granddaughter. And he kind of chuckled a little bit. And I said, I have something for you to sing. And he looks at me and he says, well, you know, I can't sing. You know, I can't hit a note. And I said, well, that doesn't matter with this. That doesn't matter with the New You. And so I sang it for him a couple of times, and he listened. And so he starts singing it, and his voice sounded a little better than it normally did. And pretty soon, that whole gray haze lifted, and we were in light. It was the neatest experience with my grandfather. I just wanted to share that because I remembered that as Pierce was talking.
You know, that reminds me, I got to see Segovia's last performance at Orchestra Hall in Chicago, live in person. My aunt and mother went with us, and he started at 7 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock he stopped playing music, and I thought, what's this, a short intermission or something? And then the next thing I know, the whole audience was saying encore, encore, encore. He played for 2 hours, and it felt like 2 minutes. You know, you were just like lost in Never Land. It was so beautiful.
You know, some of these notes that the singers, let's say Luciano Pavarotti or Placido Domingo, or one of the it's usually a tenor that this happens to me. When they hit certain notes, high notes, I feel my whole body just tingles and vibrates, like from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, and it's just like wow. I had some similar experiences when I sang with the symphony, the Southwest Florida Symphony Chorus. And we are situated on risers behind the orchestra. It's a 200-piece orchestra. It's a big orchestra. And I was standing. I was short, so I was in the front on the, I'm 5'4", so on the front floor, actually. Then came the risers. I stood behind the French horns and the kettle drums. I kind of stood right between those guys. And when they would play certain music, I got the same thrill that I got listening to some of these singers. When that full orchestra goes through you, there's just really nothing like live music. There really isn't. You can listen to it on the radio or on the TV or on a CD, but nothing beats that full experience. It's kind of like being on the real side. Nothing beats it. Nothing's like it. Okay, Robert.
Okay, I have a question for Duane. And
Of course you do.
and the reason I'm raising this question is because the other day we were talking about sharing the new you with people, and I was telling her I have a reputation now around where I work at the airport. My boss came in to me on Thursday morning. He says, Robert, what do you do in your spare time when you're not at work? And he says you hang out at these bars, the LBG bars, and put earrings in your ears and nose, and put on temporary tattoos, and put on certain kind of pants, and dress up and do all this voodoo stuff when and so I guess word is getting out that I'm sharing the new you with people and going to the real side. And so of course I'm trying to hit home with these people, and Sandy says, well, you just share it with them once, and then
No, I didn't say once.
She says share it with them. If they say no, forget it. And
I don't say forget it like that, so get it right.
Well, anyway, the question is, where does compassion? This is the question. Where does compassion fit in the scheme of things of sharing new you with people? And I really feel for people. I want to share new you. If they don't get it, I want to try again and again and again. And Sandy has a friend that's about dead, a musician friend of hers down in Illinois, and she won't even call him.
Yeah, I called him, but I get the voicemail of both him and his wife, and they haven't called back.
Yeah, well, but anyway,
I did send him the book 9. I know, and I gave him the new you card, and I sent some other things.
Well, anyway, I get the impression from Sandy that you tell them once, and if they say no, forget it. Whereas I keep wanting to try. I have compassion for people, but on the other hand, I can see where compassion can be carried away as an emotion and probably has no place in all this. So I would like your input on that, Duane.
Well, as you were explaining that, Bob, a movie was unveiling itself that you were kind of the producer of, and I understand compassion. I see that too. In other words, I really care. So you could try this the next time you share the new you, and the person kind of turns around and is disinterested. You can hang onto their belt buckle and let them drag you and see what happens. So you can use that compassion to like, okay, wait, I'm not through yet. There's more. Okay, you could try that one. I see that scene. Also, I get.
Got it right.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Okay, just hopefully they got a tight belt so that
still loses his hands.
So as you're describing the scene, I kind of see it. It's like, oh wait, I'm not. There's more. Let's have lunch. Whatever. Okay, I got a great meal waiting for us.
He's hung on to car windows that were half open as they're driving away.
I understand, and it's kind of like religious people. Yes, you have the compassion, but that's something. Again, we're entering, you might say, another person's space, so it's a touchy area. And what your supervisor or whatever was saying, when it's like, do you go down to the bars and or you do put tattoos on you? Well, again, listen to what people say. This is the fun part, because this is part of your experience and how you interpret it accordingly. But stand in his shoes, and he's probably hearing funny stories, I'll just take a guess, from others saying, oh, Bob said this to me or whatever, and he's explaining these things. Well, all of a sudden, you're hearing their interpretations of what you're expressing. Just like when you went to the seminar, again, it's right there in front of your face. You're sharing the new you, you're sharing Rebazar. They're throwing it back in your face like, we don't want this. You see, that's their interpretation, isn't it? Yeah. So you're hearing his interpretation. That's why he's coming around to you. You know, it's like the 10 monkey thing. Remember? You sit in a circle with 10 monkeys or knuckleheads, and you say something and you whisper in their ear, then the next guy and the next guy. By the time it comes around, it's totally different, isn't it? Of course it is. Because it's individual interpretation. And this is, very few people will take on this adventure because of that. And especially in this literalized world, you see, they want people, and which they've gotten them to that point. It becomes harder in a way until a person can just step right through all of that and just keep taking the risk to see more, to see more, to see more. And it's really endless. It's imagine being Christopher Columbus sailing the sea, and day after day, week after week, months after months, all he sees is ocean. It's like, okay, so again, that's not too all-inspiring. So again, this is the same. It is to, break through that personal self and those self-convictions. But most people go back to that. So compassion, you ask about compassion. Yes, and consideration. Yeah, the boys have that. That's why they're there. It is demonstrated by the fact you don't have to project emotion. I'll say it is demonstrated by the fact of just your presence, you see? Just like here on the Skype. Do you see Harry and Joni here? No, they don't care. So all those people that do care, they're demonstrating by that very fact. So you're demonstrating that, but at the same time, you're also, I will say, respecting their free will of choice because they have that. They must have that because that's part of the adventure they need to eventually figure it out. Without that, no, everybody's a robot. So you must respect that. And so you just do what you can, like the sun shining. The sun shining is a combination of everything that you can consider and everything that you cannot consider. It's already there by the very fact of how it demonstrates itself. You see?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily need to get caught up in tripping over our own emotions to where you see these things on TV, like the evangelists and stuff like that. So, they just look for tricks to do, like, touching the forehead and the person, goes backwards, is knocked out or whatever. And it's like, oh, Jesus did that, you're healed. When we were younger, and yeah, all of us went to Sunday school or whatever. I did too. I was forced to by my mom. I didn't like it, but I never saw any of that stuff. So today we have all these exaggerated tricks, and so the same thing too. It's like people throw ideas on us, like, okay, you're to care, you're to do this, you're to do these things. We're taught these things, and again, the sun is the best example of refining all of this. Because it's a reflection of the is, it demonstrates it, refining all these things to where, hey, you already have that by the very fact of, see, when you, as an example, when the person gets to know you, just like was explained here in the experiences, you decide what you're going to do with it. You can have those experiences, you can share them, you can edit them to where they become adventure stories, and that people will love to read them. As I've suggested to so many people, write your story, 100 pages or whatever. And most of the time, you know what I get? It's like, oh, I don't know what to write. Oh, no one's going to like this. No one's going to read it. And I find each person that expresses themselves, they're unique. But the best part is that it's for you to learn to see yourself where you're at and what you're deciding. It's very important to consciously see what you're deciding every single moment, because when you compare that to the sun, you see what the sun is deciding every moment, and that is to shine. So we're in creation. We decide what we do every single moment, and it's always up to you. This is what I see is so cool, is that, hey, I can do this every moment. And yeah, there's considerations out there. I have the personal self I have to drag along, but every single moment. So compassion, it's like happiness or whatever. It's kind of like icing on the cake. You decide that, but at the same time, you'll figure it out. But you already have it by the very fact of what you're deciding. Yes, you care more than others. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you. I have a couple dreams that I would like your thought on.
I had to get him his glasses. Excuse for the noise.
Yeah. I had a dream last Tuesday morning that I dreamed I was moving to DCA. Does that mean anything to you?
Is that next to DC?
I think it is.
You think so? So what was, you need more, again, it's Name That Tune.
Yeah, one note.
Yeah, so again, this is where that your interesting other comes in and gives you an alternate point of view. Have you two discussed this yet?
Not really.
Okay, so that's where we're at. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Well, it was like, it was really a busy area. It was like, maybe it was airport, like a job transfer to a very busy area, which, that's what's kind of puzzling, because I would have no desire to do that, to change jobs to go to a real busy airport like that. But it was a very busy area, and I got involved with a lot of stuff. So I did mention to Sandy, and she said maybe I'm doing something more important, getting set up to do something more important. Does that sound like a possibility?
Reference your, the helicopter experience.
Uh-huh.
And watch out for those big power lines. Okay, so direct connection awareness. Okay, see, so again, it's not about your personal job. That's what you think it is, you see. So again, step aside from that. What else could it be besides your personal job? So that's what kind of hinted to me, direct connection awareness. So it's going to use ideas accordingly. But again, remember, you're always the decider. So you see this going on in this experience, and it's busier. Yeah, because that's the bigger picture. Yeah, you're not playing with little airplanes anymore. That's the bigger picture from what you're telling me. So in the experience, what do you decide, or how are you seeing it? It's going to get busier.
Yeah. It seems like I'm going to be busier doing real side stuff, I guess. That's the only way I can interpret it.
Well, again, see, you interpret it according to how you think it is, and learning to see how it is. But again, it can be like the beginning of a movie. And, as I'm sure you've sat down many times, you and Sandy went to the movies, or you went by yourself, and all of a sudden, like the James Bond movie, it opens up with about a 5-minute or 10-minute adventure. And then it goes to the, the basic scenario of, the credits and all that. And then it goes back into the adventure. And so, sometimes it has something to do with it. But I see that from this here, yes, you become busier. It's like myself. You become multitask, but you become more aware. So this is what awareness is about. Now, all of a sudden, you start to see a lot more. And you decide how involved you want to be with that. So again, it's your decision. But see, there's the personal self thinking that, this is a place I don't want to be, or I don't want to do that. See, again, that little decision there, that's where the personal self comes in, you see? So is it deciding, or are you seeing the opportunity and possibility here? See, there's a difference. You're the decider.